Let's talk about Kamaru Usman, or Kamaru, as Bruce Buffer said, versus Gilbert Burns. Where do we begin with this? I mean, we obviously have to talk about pre-fight. Mm-hmm. These two line up, the refs giving them instructions.
Yeah, and I have to add, Burns looks nervous. Did he not look nervous to you before the fight even started? It was his facial expressions. Am I crazy for thinking that?
Well, that's something I really didn't notice. If I'm being
Kamaru looked
honest.
Focused. He looked like he was ready to go in for the kill right off the bat.
And I'm going to go on a little spiel about Kamaru Usman here in a minute. But Gilbert Burns looked great in that first round. I mean,
in the first round, he looked fantastic.
Usman. Yeah. He rocked Usman, landed a huge shot. I thought for a second he was going to be able to finish him. Obviously, being the champ that he is, he was able to recover, and he looked great in the second round and finished Gilbert Burns in the third round. And we got to say it, the word of the day, folks, jab. The most simple, the punch you learn, the first, and again, I'm not even a light belt, I'm a nobody. But I've gone to, kickboxing classes, which, come on, guys, I'm not a fighter, but you do it to stay in shape. Yeah. The first thing they teach you is jab. Obviously. It's the first thing. Yet a champion of the world won a fight off his jab. Dude, what a stinger that thing is, too.
Well, you heard Trevor Whitman. You're a champion because your jab.
Yeah.
You're a champion because of your jab. And it was the jab that dropped him multiple times.
Yes, it was.
Absolutely insane, dude. He really does have a stiff jab, dude. Yeah. Like none other really in the welterweight division. There's not many jabs you could really compare that to. And Kamaru's not really a guy we talk about his striking all the time. Everyone always likes to talk about how his clinch work is so good, his wrestling is so good, his pressure up against the fence is so good. But he outstruck a very dangerous Gilbert Burns.
Yes, he did.
I'm not trying to take anything away from Kamaru's performance, but there was something about Burns, and I don't know what it was. Maybe he wasn't nervous. He's a professional fighter. He's been in there so many times. He's gotten so many great victories. World champion, Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. But for some reason, when I looked at his face before the fight started, I felt a little off. It looked like he was uncomfortable to me.
Well, for whatever reason, this week, and I think it's because I had nothing to do. I was snowed in. I watched every possible thing. I watched the countdown. I watched all the embeddeds. I watched the post-fight interviews. And something that Gilbert Burns brought up is he said, I can't make mistakes. He goes, I got a little too excited in the first round. I put out too much energy. And he goes, fighting the champion, I can't make those mistakes. He goes, Kamaru Usman doesn't make those mistakes. I made that mistake. He goes, and that's something I got to work on. And I think that's a lot of what that stemmed from. You have to think about all the nervous energy of one fighting a friend and former teammate.
Yeah.
That puts enough stress on you to begin with, because you have trained with this man for 7 years and you're finally going to compete against him on the biggest stage in the world. That is just astronomically huge, right? And then you have the added element of having a dominant champion who has won 17 straight fights, just beat GSP's record for consecutive wins in the welterweight division.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's not in just the UFC, correct? That is overall in MMA, something like that. Because I don't think he's even had 17 fights in the UFC, so it must be throughout his MMA career.
It would have to be.
Yeah.
To get back to my point, though, Kamaru Usman, with Gilbert Burns dealing with all this added pressure, I think the moment got to him. I don't think Gilbert Burns looked terrible.
No, I think he looked great in the first round, especially after he dropped him.
And he is the number one contender in this division. There was no one else in this division that deserved this shot more than Gilbert Burns. And I'm telling you right now, you string together Gilbert Burns, it's not over for you. You string 2, maybe 3 impressive wins. I'd give him 2. You can get another shot. This division too. Kamaru Usman has essentially decimated this division
already.
Let's talk about his call out. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Actually, you know what? Before that, let's talk about this. Obviously, these two, Gilbert Burns reached out to, if you guys want to touch gloves, go ahead. Kamaru Usman didn't.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. Okay. And I noticed the ESPN on Facebook and all this made this comparison, but I thought about this. I swear to you, I thought about it right away. I go, oh my God, that is the most perfect mind game ever. And you know who it reminded me of? Michael Jordan. You could be his best friend in the world, but if you wanted what he wanted, You're not taking it from him. And Michael Jordan would literally make things up in his head. And then Kamaru Usman literally came out and said that when I watched The Last Dance, which is a 10-part Michael Jordan documentary on the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan said, I would just find things to motivate me. Even off things that no one would think would irritate me, I would find something. And Kamaru Usman goes, yeah, that sounds a lot like me. And that's who Kamaru Usman is, man. He could very well be the Michael Jordan of UFC and of this welterweight division. We could never see this man lose. I think the closest fight, I was so stoked after this fight. This morning, I literally, I was on the stair stepper and I was watching Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington.
Yeah.
And that was a phenomenal fight.
Yeah, it was a great fight.
Outside of that,
now there's a narrative that Kamaru has never lost a round and stuff like that. Like, what the fuck, guys? He was about to lose that fight against Colby in that fifth.
He's definitely lost a round.
He's definitely lost a few rounds. It was just, but yeah, back to Kamaru, dude, because I agree with you. I mean, he very well could be the greatest welterweight ever. Yeah. If he continues to go like this. I mean, yeah, like you said, like we said earlier, he pretty much did decimate. He beat George. He beat Colby. He beat Leon already. The only guy he hasn't fought is Steve Wonderboy Thompson, who's asking for that fight. Let's go into the call out because he's very excited for the rematch, the Jorge rematch. I mean, can you blame him? Everyone's saying it's going to be the easiest matchup out of everyone in the top 5, and it's his biggest payday. Can't blame the man for wanting that fight.
So, do I blame Kamaru Usman? Absolutely not. As you just said, biggest payday, easiest. I don't want to say easiest because
I think it is though. I mean, no offense to Jorge Masvidal. We all know what he can do, but we all saw that first fight.
Yeah, no, I know. But again, that was on, 8 days notice or whatever. There was a excuse baked into the goods of what Jorge Masvidal was for that fight. But again, I don't want to see this fight.
Me neither. I thought I was the only one. No. Thank goodness.
As much as I love Jorge Masvidal, as much as I'm really loving Kamaru Usman and what he does for the welterweight division, I don't want to see that rematch.
Me neither.
You know what rematch really strikes a nerve with me?
Leon Edwards,
Colby Covington.
Yes. It's the only two fights.
Those are the two I want to
see. Make.
One, Leon Edwards, how many years ago was that? 5?
Oh, very long.
5 or 6 years
They're both early in their career, and Leon hasn't lost since.
He's won 8 fights in a row in the welterweight division. I mean, we're looking at another Charles Oliveira situation here.
Absolutely.
Where it's like at some point in kudos to Dana. I know that
I don't give a fuck.
I know you don't, Dana, but I got to give you a little bit of credit here. I was really concerned for Leon Edwards, and then he came out and said, hey, look, this guy was going to take Khamzat Chimaev, number 15. He's got to go up. So Colby Covington is the guy that makes sense. I feel like this has all been set up because they definitely want Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman because that is the biggest payday, not just for the fighters, but for the UFC in general. That could very well, if they stack the undercard or the co-main and stuff, that could very well do 2 million buys with Jorge Masvidal.
2 million, maybe.
Yes, with the right promotion.
Connor Poirier only did what, 1.6? I think it was like 1.6 or something
Jorge
like that.
Masvidal on 8 days' notice did 1.7, 1.8 million buys on 8 days' notice.
I guess maybe. It depends on how well they promote it.
Promotion, you do the countdown, you do the embedded, the grudge rematch. Oh, Jorge Masvidal's got a full camp. Is he going to be? And no, it's going to be more of the same. Kamaru's going to take him down, beat the shit out of him for 5 rounds. And there's a belt. Yeah. So.
Always helps. I love the call out. I don't love the matchup as well. I mean, I agree 100%. It's Colby Covington, Leon Edwards. It's that or bust. Yeah. But I mean, okay, let's talk a little bit about Gilbert Burns, though. I mean, he's got to have a big fight still. He is still the number 1 contender unless Colby just jumps him. But if they do Leon versus Colby, which is supposedly, rumor has it, is in the works, I mean, that's the new number 1 contender fight. That's who fights for the belt next, after Jorge Masvidal or something like that. So we'll see. It just shocks me they're not doing Colby Masvidal. I thought that was the fight to make, and now no one cares the last few weeks. Just kind of fell off the radar completely. It is a little sad, but dude, let's talk Gilbert before we move on to the next fight. I mean, what do we do with him next? I mean, maybe a loser of that fight. You got to see Wonderboy Thompson out there, Michael Chiesa. I mean, I do think they're names.
Well, that's what's so insane here. So Gilbert Burns being the number 1 contender in the world, just lost to Kamaru Usman. You have Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards, it's supposedly in the works, not confirmed, in the works. Then you're going to get Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal at number 4. So that does leave just Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Michael Chiesa, maybe a Tyron Woodley, but no one wants to see that. Gilbert Burns already fucking smashed him for 5 minutes. Yeah. So you are left with 2 options. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Michael Chiesa. I think Thompson will take that fight.
I love both of those fights.
I like Michael Chiesa better. I wanna save Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I don't know what for. Maybe for the next shot.
Well, he's arguing for a shot.
Yeah.
You know, he gave his argument. He said, "I'm the only one in the top 5 that hasn't fought Kamaru already."
Yep. And I think he's got a fair point, man.
Yeah.
I do. And he's strung together a few wins. So
yeah, I think if he did one more, he needed that matchup. He needed that Colby Covington. He needed that Leon Edwards fight.
They're not going to give it to him.
And they're not going to give it to him. I mean, you can't give him a Chiesa or a Woodley or a Maya or something like that and then go, okay, a win like that's going to give you a title shot. It doesn't work out. Right. It just sucks for him, man. He's really in limbo. I mean, it's Gilbert Burns.
And Gilbert Burns is in limbo, too. I mean, if they don't match those two up, Gilbert Burns ain't going to fight number 7 or 8. I mean, again, number 7's Tyron Woodley, number 8's Damian Maia. He beat them both.
Yeah, and how much damage Gilbert Burns just took. Let's give him a good 6 months off.
For sure. Yeah, let's give him some time. Yeah, time to heal.
Hopefully this welterweight division shakes out a little more about that. Let's go into our betting. I did put 500 church coin on to Gilbert Burns. It did not work out. I didn't win a single bet this last week.
Yeah, well, I only won 1, and my losses were a lot bigger than yours. So.
Yep. That's what we
absolutely. That's what we So I put 1,000 church coin on Gilbert Burns. I really did like the value at a plus, what was it, plus 220 or plus... It was something crazy. It was
it was a good bet.
Plus 220.
And it seemed like it was I don't want to say for sure, but it did seem like everything was looking good for Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, it did look like the stars were aligning, especially in that first round when he caught him. I was like, "Oh my God, he's going to put away the champ!"
I was like, "It's going to be quick."
In the first round. Yep. But no,
that was crazy.
Usman's got that warrior spirit, man. Absolutely. There's something about Usman, and I don't know. I like the this is really weird with the Usman because I always just go back and forth with him. Like I really do love watching him, and he is unquestionably he's got a very strong mindset. One of the strongest, if not the strongest. He's got the Michael Jordan mentality for sure. But there's something about the way that he presents himself sometimes, and I know we've talked about this before. That seems a little off, where it's not authentic. Mm-hmm. But then, like in the post-fight interview. I felt like it was really Kamaru Usman.
I think he's maturing a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's trying.
He's really coming into his own.
Yeah, because he doesn't. Here's the thing with Kamaru Usman. I get that he's like, I'm never going to lose, but it never comes across as authentic because I think he's the silent killer.
Yeah,
I really do. Just a guy that's like looks back and be like, okay, well, I'll see you. I'll see you next week. Mm-hmm. I'll see you Saturday night. That's all he's got to do.
Or when Colby was talking shit to him, I broke your face.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's sometimes where Kamaru Usman does, but like the whole varsity thing. I'm like, bro, you're more than varsity. You're more than varsity. What are you talking? Why are we doing the JV varsity comparison? You're a world champion.
Yeah,
you say you're the world champion. I mean, I get his analogy, but I don't know. Sometimes it just doesn't work for me. But then that calm, cool, silent, like assassin killer Kamaru Usman. That's the Usman I like, and that's what we saw at the post fight interview. Because I think Usman is the full package.
Yeah,
he's the he's a full package.
He's a fucking good looking guy. He's a great talker. If he doesn't know how to talk the shit the most.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have to really talk shit.
Right.
Once he tries doing the Colby Covington shit, like you could tell he tried playing that up. It was real cringe.
Yeah.
But when he's himself, everyone loves that.
Yep.
Yeah.
If he did the more like low key talking shit like Michael Jordan did, I know I keep giving comparisons, but we very well may look back at Kamaru Usman and go, oh my God, that was the Michael Jordan of UFC. Of MMA, rather.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm glad I remembered this because I almost didn't bring this up. Before we move on, he said he'll never do a super fight, dude. So he'll never fight Israel Adesanya at 185.
Yeah, I think Izzy's too big for him.
Well, I don't know. Usman's a big 170. He's a big boy for 170.
He's shredded.
I think he could do 185, and I think as long, I don't think it's the greatest matchup against Israel ever, but he said there's so much respect. But do you have to have 2 belts nowadays to go down as a GOAT?
No.
I mean, look at Habib. Look at that prime example right there.
I don't think
he didn't even have that many defenses.
Is it an added bonus? Yeah, but I mean, you can look at guys' career. Like, we don't consider, which, I mean, he is one of the greatest, unquestionably. What he's done in the UFC has been phenomenal. But we don't look at DC as the greatest of all time. We don't look at, well, maybe John Jones, I guess. But we don't look at some of these guys with 2 belts. Conor McGregor, he's not the GOAT. He's not the greatest of all time. Mm-hmm. So I think 2 belts is an added element. But that just means more pressure, and it means you gotta win every time you defend those belts. So who cares if Kamaru Usman does the George St. Pierre route and just wins, and maybe when Kamaru Usman turns 38, he's like, fuck it, I'll just go up and fight one time for the belt, and then he can be a double champ
and then retire
and walk away in the sunset, or ride away in the sunset. So.